issue and the problem so beautifully with doctors. The irony is that those same issues are with salespeople from every different business.
Let me introduce you, Andrea Waltz, and please give us some, background information, how you are upbringing, and then how you kind of get started with what do you do, as a profession, and how you help other people.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. An. It is a pleasure to be on your podcast. And I was so excited that you invited me because I feel that this topic is really important, not just for business owners and salespeople, but for practitioners and people with private offices in every medical specialty. Because oftentimes I think that doctors find themselves in a position where they need to sell the patient on making a good decision, a smart decision, even if it costs that patient money. It's the right thing to do, but sometimes there's a fear, hesitation of rejection or looking like we're being pushy or salesy. But before I get into all of that, so that's why I was excited to be on your podcast. Before I get into all of that, I have been a speaker, professional speaker, trainer, author now for going on 20 plus years. I launched my career actually in the retail industry. That's where I worked through college. I got a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. So it's kind of a very odd combination. But I fell into sales training while I was on the job, and I loved doing it. And I really liked the psychology of sales and the mindset and what goes on behind the scenes, like deep within our psychology, especially around fear of rejection. So eventually, after a few years at my last corporate job, my now husband convinced me that we should leave our corporate jobs, start off on our own, launch our own speaking and training company. And that's what we did 20 years ago. We wrote this short book called Go for No, and it is a fable. It's a short read, powerful, designed to teach anyone in any business, in any industry, how to change the way they think and feel about rejection to be more successful. We call it Go for No. That some people don't understand, what does that mean? The subtitle kind of gives away the secret. The subtitle is yes is the destination, but no is how you get there. So it's all about being more successful in your business and your life by understanding that the way to do that is not in avoiding no, but it is in fact in hearing more no's. So that's kind of the crux of what the concept is, but there's so much more behind that. And I know that we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
Well, thanks for the great introduction. When was that book written?
So we self-published that book in 2000. It has been on the market now for, over 20 years. But I will tell you this, it took 10 years before it finally hit #1 on Amazon's sales and selling list. It took a long, so we like to joke we were a 10-year overnight success.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. So as you know, I've been, I do have my podiatry practice. And I converted and transformed my practice into, I call it hybrid concierge model, which means not solely relying on insurance plans, but more focusing on patient direct care and more focusing on providing the best treatment solutions. And it's not always necessary that insurance pays for the best treatment solutions. And most traditionally trained medical professionals are not good at talking about money with the patient, especially when insurance doesn't cover certain procedures or treatment solutions that basically they're stuck. And, I went through the same phase because we as doctors usually don't get educated or trained in sales side or business mindset, marketing. So that it is essential for private practice owners to get educated and trained to a certain level not just how to medically diagnose and treat, but other aspect of running private practice. So that most doctors, when I start working with them as my consulting business, they're not good at sales. They're, when I say word sales, and then they get scared and they get sweat and like fear, they feel fear. What if I say, you need these treatment solutions to patient, and patients say, well, if insurance doesn't cover, I'm not going to do it. And then doctor's like, oh my God, this is exactly what I was worried. I shouldn't have started it. I'm going to go back to old insurance-based model and just going to offer what insurance pays. And it obviously, in the long run, it hurts not only doctors' practice model in revenue profits, but also ultimately you are providing the second best or third best treatment options by force, because they're not comfortable talking about money, and then they're not comfortable hearing rejections, But so let's get into some more, meat of your, teaching and consulting, so that doctors and listeners of my podcast and watching this video, they can kind of see and learn from it. Why do you think, Andrea, people fear rejection?
Well, it is so prevalent that I will tell you, we have an app on our website where people can message me who visit. And I was looking at the app the other day, and we had people from all corners of the globe, literally from here in Florida to other states, to Nigeria, to Malaysia, Europe, you name it. I get messages from people all the time who in every different industry. And I think that we all can agree that we're basically, as humans, we're biologically wired to not get thrown out of the tribe, to have a certain amount of it's kind of built into our DNA that rejection is bad, that it could be dangerous. Of course, this goes back through evolution. And so here we are in society today, though, where our brains are functioning at one level when it comes to rejection, but the danger is not like it once was when we were, wandering around the deserts and the plains and fighting for our very existence. So it's such a common thing. And I think that you framed the issue and the problem so beautifully with doctors. The irony is that those same issues are with salespeople from every different business. They're with actors trying to get an audition. They're in, anyone trying to sell an idea. There's these false beliefs that I'm going to step over the line with someone. And I know that with doctors even more, probably than even salespeople, they don't want to come across pushy. They don't want to look aggressive. And so as a result, oftentimes they make an assumption and they say, well, I know that this X treatment would be good for this patient. I know insurance doesn't cover it. And so to bring it up, the patient will probably think I'm just trying to sell them something. And so that really is the issue that we have to get beyond, which is you are better off and you are serving your patient at a higher level, getting that no from that patient, than deciding for them that they shouldn't know about the treatment. And we know how dangerous and I don't mean literally dangerous, but just from a practical wanting to serve your patient at the highest level, not educating them that, hey, there's this treatment, there's this procedure, there's this service that we could perform. Listen, it's not covered, but I would be not doing my due diligence, not sharing it with you, and not giving you the opportunity to say no to me. So that is really how to apply Go for No in a practice, understanding that you are educating your patient in that moment, not selling them. And that's, of course, I think the prerogative of all, doctors who are serving really and functioning at the highest level.
That makes sense. So not only we're talking about having fear of patients saying no, but what you're saying is that we shouldn't be fear of saying no to them. If, let's say, patients say, no, I just want any treatment that insurance covers and I don't want to do that, and then most doctors give in, they're like, okay, then I'm just gonna do what insurance covers. Instead of doing that, you know what you believe in, and then you should be able to say no, that's not the correct choice. So doctors can, I think, bring more confidence in what they truly believe in. Certain treatment solutions much more superior or better for each patient. Is that correct?
That's correct. So you're right. It kind of goes both ways, saying no to things that aren't the best option, but also being willing, I think, to face rejection. And this also goes for staff. Oftentimes I've seen in dental practices where it's not the doctor that's proposing the treatment plan, it's a staff member, and they're going right. And they're going through this treatment plan, and all of a sudden the patient's like, what? No to all of these prices, or to these costs. And so they may have to maybe scale back the treatment plan. But the question is, do you start with the best treatment plan that will give that patient the best possible outcome, and you list all the costs? Yes. In doing that, oftentimes the doctor might get more no's. So in other words, that's the go for no strategy. That's the go for no mindset. But they've shown the patient everything. And if the patient says, no, I can't do this right now, and I can't do this right now, but I can at least do, I can't do A and B, but I can at least do C. Let's at least fix, the most pressing problem. That's sometimes how it is, right? With the particular situation. But you show everything. And so so I think the no idea goes both ways.
Correct. Okay. So, these are some good, really true gold nuggets to most doctors who are listening to, this interview. Do you think your principle of go for no work for introverts and like for that reason, and even like people who are kind of not extrovert personality and they don't like to talk it out, things like so. I think that's why, I've been working with many doctors. They have a separate treatment coordinator who talks about money with the patients. And then when I see doctors, like when patients ask doctors, hey, how much does it cost? And as soon as they bring up the cost issues, doctors like, oh, well, when it comes to money, I'm going to step out, and then I'm going to have my treatment coordinator in, or advisor in, and then, he or she will talk about money. And I don't like that, but sometimes I can force doctors to do certain ways, but maybe I'll help them understand the mindset. So do you think your principles would work for like typical introverts or doctors who haven't been trained?
Absolutely. And you brought up a couple different issues, and they tend to blend together. On one hand, of course, we know that the doctors time is very limited. So I understand that they sometimes wouldn't want to get, maybe they don't want to have it derail, right? Have the conversation derail into it where it gets deep into the money conversation. So sometimes it makes sense to cut that off and turn that over to the treatment coordinator. Totally understandable. However, the mindset of the doctor, because this influences the staff, has to be, our services are valuable. What we charge is reasonable based on the value the patient is getting. And we should never be ashamed to ask for payment and to share the numbers with our patients. They just are what they are. So I think that mindset is really important for the doctors to have. It bleeds over into the staff members to have as well, because oftentimes and I see this also with veterinary clinics, they are constantly apologizing for their pricing. That's good. Yeah. It's like, why are you apologizing? This is the service. It's valuable. People love their animals. They don't want them to get sick. They want to get them fixed up. So it's one, we never apologize. We're not ashamed of our pricing, that mindset. And then the mindset to the treatment coordinators of, hey, yes, if you're an introvert, if you're shy, if you are nervous about talking about money, the idea of go for no is really rooted in courageous selling. And courageous selling, as I define it, is caring more about making sure that the person you're trying to help and serve understands your offers and that you're willing to have them say no to you more than not offering at all and not hearing the no. That's really what courageous selling comes down to. It's willing to hear the no from your patient, your customer, rather than protecting yourself, if that makes sense. And so even an introvert, even someone who's shy, it comes down to being willing to show the products and services without shame, showing the numbers, and then letting the person make the decision. It's up to them. And if it's a no, it's okay. But you should feel good that you made the attempt and that it always comes down to, in my mind, remind yourself, we're not selling here, we're educating. And then we're letting them make an educated decision as opposed to walking out of the office, having no idea, not having the information, going home and having a family member say, so what are your options? And that person says, I don't know, right? I mean, that would be so, that's such a bad thing to happen to somebody. So if we look at it as education rather than selling, I think that really helps the introvert deal with some of those issues.
That's a great value, listeners and doctors. Education versus selling or sales. I like this, especially in a healthcare field. We ultimately want better health and fix patients' problems. And without educating them and nurturing them to get to know your treatment option, if you believe that treatment option is the best one, I think that will help, shift their mindset. I'm educating instead of selling. I like that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
It's like Dr. Anand, if you don't mind, I'd just like to give you another just quick go for no example. And this actually happened to me with my husband in the podiatrist's office. We saw a podiatrist. She was quite skillful. We didn't even realize how effective going to a podiatrist was. My husband needed to go for years. Finally, I said, we need to go see a specialist. And we did. And thank goodness we did. But one thing that she didn't do was she mentioned offhand that she had some insoles, but didn't follow through with really showing us what those options were. And so sometimes, again, that comes back to not feeling like you don't want to be a salesperson. And yet as the patient, as the customer now, we have to go out and find, those insoles, and it takes us more time and it takes us more energy. And it could have been just easier for us to be in the office and to say, yes, what do you have? So when you look at Go for No, it's a way to say, what are all of the options that we have here? What are all of the products? What are all of the services? And again, going back to education, let's share this with the customer. Let them say no to us. If they don't want it, that's fine. But instead of now we have to run around and find, online or whatever, what works. Whereas if you have something in the office, always make sure that you show it to give the patient the option.
Yeah, that's a prime example of field of podiatry, custom-made insoles that are one of the strong expertise of podiatrists. But again, because of that insurance reasons, a lot of insurance stopped paying for custom-made orthotics, and doctors typically wouldn't even want to be bothered, or because it's just too much stress for them to, I have to bring up now, this is not covered by insurance. What am I going to do if patient says no? And another thing that it kind of triggered something to me when you speak about apologizing for their treatment to patients. Do you think that is also something to do with staff or doctors do not believe in their value versus that investment patients to come up with?
I think that they ultimately, if they were asked, I believe that doctors understand the value that they bring, and probably even their staff members do. But they've been conditioned over the years that sales is bad, and that that anything that smacks of sales at all, that anything that feels like it's extra is like they're all of a sudden they're not professional and that they're now being used car salesmen. So I think ultimately deep down they have the belief, but it just goes back to this other competing belief that sales is so negative and that we're doing something to someone, not for them. So they would anything that feels that way makes them feel bad and like that it's negative. So so then it comes across as if they don't believe in their value, which of course they do, but it gets masked in those negative beliefs about sales.
So again, I think you gave us already pretty strong advices. So that because no seems negative and people try to avoid it, so that thinking that is a negative, how do you suggest that or give you advice to, people, the audience who are listening to this or watching this?
Absolutely. So the advice is to look for those go for no moments in your practice, in your business, where you have that opportunity to show something additional or where you normally wouldn't have. Maybe you would have said, well, this is extra. It's not covered. I shouldn't mention it. It's remind yourself to go for no. And what you will find, Dr. An, is when you do this enough and when you have your staff do this enough, you will start to get a success story here and there. Someone will say yes to something, and then later down the road, they will come back and they will say, I'm so glad that you showed me this, that you suggested this, that I went with this treatment. It changed my life. It made me feel so much better. And when you start to see those success stories, you start to realize this is about helping our patients achieve a level of comfort that they hadn't had previously. We solved their pain problem, whatever it is. And that really gives confidence to what we're doing here. Because that's really at the end, what are we doing here? In every practice that you can imagine, we're trying to alleviate patient discomfort, patient pain. We're trying to solve problems. And so the advice is just practice asking a little bit more and remind yourself that this is in service of the patient, not doing something to them, but for them.
I love it. Yeah. So I do have consulting programs for podiatrists, and I do have a mastermind. And what I encourage doctors to do in our members area that to claim their win just like that, even if it's the smallest win. They think, oh, I just helped one patient to say yes and accepted my treatment. And then, you need to declare that you just helped one more patient to accept your treatment solutions. And after all, ultimately, that's for improving public health. And that's what we are. That's who we are, to provide the best treatment solutions for our public health. And then just encourage them by writing down or claim that inside of our trusted community. And then it seems to take them to the next level, that it's not so bad that I go for no, right? Like in your principles. And then when they get the yes from few patients, then it gets easier and then better, and then they start believing in their treatment solution and themselves more.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. I love that you do that.
Awesome. So are there anything else that you can maybe suggest so that doctors or listeners can implement your ideas right away in their personal life and business? Yeah,
well, so kind of going back to, the beginning around fear of rejection, it's create kind of what we call a no awareness. And I know it sounds funny, but in any area of your business or your life, there's these opportunities to ask. And the better we get at asking questions, doctors are really good at asking questions to probe for information. But those questions of, would you like to see this? Could we show you this? We want to educate you. Are you interested? And even asking outside of work, outside of business, practicing that. Like I always tell people, this is going to sound funny, but sometimes you go to a restaurant, and they seat you at this horrible table. And I tell people, practice asking the hostess, like, we don't want to sit at the horrible table. Can you move us up front to the really cute table in the window? And just, practice with small, silly things that don't require taking so much personal risk, but you just get used to say, what's the worst that can happen? She could say, no, you can't sit there. And okay, you're sitting back anyway in the horrible seat by the water station. That's okay. But when we practice that, that's the type of thing that builds courage and it builds confidence. And so it's something fun that you can practice in every area of your life.
That actually reminds me of one more question I wanted to ask you. So that happens to real life a lot. When I go to restaurant with my wife, she is not afraid of asking for better table, or complain this, certain things that to me, I almost felt like, come on, I don't want any confrontation. I don't want any additional stress out of small things. So I think, what would you say to doctors of that mindset? Oh, I don't want to create confrontation. I don't want to create any negative things by me saying so. What would you say to that?
Exactly. And that's also a deep mindset shift of, it's not about having any confrontation. I agree with you. No one likes confrontation, neither do I. But we have to learn the difference between asking and having an unnecessary confrontation where it's argumentative or where we're not being respectful. It's simply standing up for something that we'd like, and that there's nothing wrong with that, especially in this case with the table. And that what we have to understand is that when you get better at you going for no, you do it better with your customers, and you get better at taking no's. You understand that no is actually a perfectly acceptable answer, and you learn to not take it personally. And so it no longer feels confrontational. It's just, you're able to be, I think, a little bit more objective and not have it feel like it's a personal attack on them or anything. It's just, hey, do you mind, like, hey, this dish was not prepared the way I thought it would be, or can you take that back to the kitchen and bring me something else, right? And it feels like, gosh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have a confrontation.
Right.
But it's the small builds of confidence. And I think when you do it respectfully, then you're able to take it in other areas of your business and life. And I think it builds confidence that way.
Awesome. I this has been more than what I expected originally, because I knew that you help many people in a professional level, but also personal level. But then we really explored your principle and book, Go for No, how it can be applied to doctors and medical healthcare professionals, but also I can see how we can apply this to everyday life to improve our emotional well-being, of living this life in a society and a community setup without feeling guilty or without worrying about causing confrontation. So that was great.
Yes, thank you. That's interesting. And that's kind of I don't think anyone has asked me that question quite that way. And I'm glad you did, because I think making sure that we call out, what are our underlying fears? What are our concerns? Why don't we sometimes speak up for ourselves, or why don't we ask? And when we get clarity on that, it's, well, then how can I ask in the right way without just always putting myself last?
Beautiful. I love it. So, Andrea, well, it's been great pleasure talking with you and learn more about what you do and what you've been teaching and helping many people. So, where can people learn more about you and your programs or consulting service?
Absolutely. The easiest thing, I'm well branded, so everything is Go for No. It's Go for No on Twitter and Go for No on Facebook and Instagram. And I would encourage people to come to goforno.com. That's GOFORNO.com. we're actually revamping the whole website right now. So it's still the old one, but you can come, and we've got lots of blog posts, and I write basically, we share information on sales and mindset and personal growth, all relating to really courageous selling and asking and mindset, basically. So love people to come check that out.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. GoForNo.com. Listeners and doctors who are watching this, please check her website out. And, if you need further help or more information about what Andrea does, please go to that site, simple, goforno.com. And again, it's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to, meeting you somewhere in person very soon. And then I'd like to, connect with you for even some more further training.
Absolutely. I think we just scratched the surface. I think we could go even deeper. So absolutely.
I believe that. Okay. Thank you so much for your interview.
Thank you.